The tanks have fallen silent. The sky is bringing death. Ukraine's FPV drone wars are wiping Russian forces off the map. Hangars are being destroyed, shelters are exploding, and infantrymen are searching for places to flee. Are you ready to witness the new face of war? Stay tuned for more, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. In the dense woods of Serebryansky Forest, two Russian infantry soldiers were moving cautiously between the trees. But the Ukrainian reconnaissance drones spotted them instantly. Without delay, FPV kamikaze drones from the 107th Battalion of Ukraine's 63rd Brigade were launched into action. The drone operator maneuvered swiftly, closing in on the target with deadly precision. Realizing they were exposed, the Russian troops scattered in panic. One tried evasive maneuvers while the other fled, abandoning his comrade. But it was too late. The Ukrainian FPV drone locked on and struck with pinpoint accuracy. The explosion marked yet another devastating blow in Ukraine's tactical drone warfare campaign. Real war footage, intense frontline scenes, Russian soldiers caught by surprise. An effective bomb caused a large explosion at the target. Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles dropped bombs on enemy shelters. The bombs dropped on the target hit it with pinpoint accuracy. The troops also used unmanned aerial vehicles equipped with thermal cameras during the operation. As a result, the bombs dropped on enemy targets were hitting their targets with precision, rendering them ineffective. These attack operations were carried out by Ukraine's 3rd Air Assault Battalion. Thanks to the battalion's advanced unmanned aerial vehicles, enemy targets were being monitored, detected, and swiftly neutralized around the clock. Predators of the Heights. Ukraine's elite FPV drone unit is once again in action. A Russian shelter, hidden deep within abandoned buildings, is targeted by a kamikaze drone strike, unleashing a massive explosion. But the mission doesn't stop there. Russian troops have entrenched themselves inside civilian structures, hoping to escape detection. But Ukrainian drone operators, supported by surveillance UAVs, are systematically clearing every hotspot. Each building showing signs of enemy movement becomes a target. In this coordinated assault, FPV kamikaze drones and UAV support systems work together to ensure no escape routes remain. Beyond personnel, Russian ammunition depots and fortified shelters are also destroyed. This operation demonstrates not just tactical brilliance, but a clear message. Nowhere is safe for the invader. Ukrainian Air Force launched a precision airstrike against Russian forces stationed in Paraskovivka, Donetsk region. Using AASM Hammer-guided bombs, the attack delivered a devastating blow to enemy positions. The operation, captured on real battlefield footage, shows explosive blasts ripping through Russian defenses, underlining Ukraine's aerial supremacy. This tactical bombing run, part of an intensified effort to weaken Russian strongholds, once again showcases the deadly precision of Western-supplied guided munitions in the ongoing war in Ukraine. The 3rd Protection Battalion of the 101st Brigade, affiliated with the General Staff of Ukraine, is investigating an area where enemy soldiers have been spotted. The area was being scanned carefully. After a brief reconnaissance mission, the location of the enemy infantry was pinpointed. The enemy soldiers were stationed in buildings in an abandoned village. They were constantly on the move. Ukraine's unmanned aerial vehicle quickly moved to the area where enemy soldiers were spotted. What the enemy soldiers were doing could now be seen more clearly. The enemy infantry had constructed an underground shelter. As the infantry entered the shelter, drone operators dropped a bomb near the entrance. The bomb exploded violently. The operation moved on to the second phase. This time, an FPV kamikaze drone headed for the entrance of the shelter. The drone operator delivered an effective strike. The enemy was terrified by the second attack. They immediately abandoned the shelter. But they had now made their biggest mistake. The FPV drone operators continued to launch consecutive attacks. No matter where the enemy hid, the drone operators followed them. The infantry kept entering other buildings to escape the attacks, but the Ukrainian FPV kamikaze drones eventually cornered the enemy. With an effective kamikaze attack, they completely neutralized the enemy. This operation demonstrated that the Ukrainian army would not spare them as long as they refused to surrender. No matter how well the enemy hid, they could not escape detection by reconnaissance units, and they couldn't hide anyway. It was early morning. The sun had just risen. The location was the Sumy region. A series of sensitive drone operations were carried out in the village of Zapsilia, located in the Sumy region in northeastern Ukraine, and in the vicinity of the village of Hornal in the Kursk region, which is very close to the Russian border. The troops had detected numerous enemy soldiers in the area. The enemy soldiers had practically infiltrated every nook and cranny. The Ukrainian troops, however, wanted to demonstrate their resolve to the enemy. The drone teams had completed all preparations for the attack. The FPV kamikaze drones were equipped with explosives. Everything was ready to eliminate the enemy. The operation had begun swiftly. Reconnaissance drones were directing the FPV kamikaze drones from the sky for a simultaneous attack. The enemy soldiers were seen to be so terrified that they were speechless in the face of the intense drone activity. As soon as the soldiers saw the FPV kamikaze drones, they began searching for places to hide. The operators were so determined to destroy the enemy targets that they pursued them until they were neutralized. The special FPV drone team called the Ravens, affiliated with Ukraine's 129th and 248th Regional Defense Units, destroyed Russian infantry, military vehicles, and communication equipment one by one. Additionally, 2 Soviet-made D-30 howitzers were successfully hit and rendered inoperable. The enemy army suffered heavy losses as a result of this operation. These operations were carried out to counter Russian military activity along the border and reduce the enemy's artillery capabilities. In the Ukraine-Russia war, the fighting is no longer being conducted by infantry, but by drones. In the Kherson region, a Ukrainian FPV drone successfully shot down an enemy drone equipped with a fiber optic connection. Ukrainian forces detected an enemy FPV drone while conducting a reconnaissance mission around the Dnipro River and managed to shoot it down by damaging its cable. Russian forces then carried out a rescue operation for the downed drone. They knew that if the drone fell into Ukrainian hands, its operational system would also be compromised. Fearing this situation, the enemy Russian soldiers carried out a rescue operation for their drones. They may have thought, "We can't save our armored vehicles, so at least let's save our drone." This action alone demonstrated how determined the Ukrainian army was. May 2025. The Azov Brigade, the most successful brigade of the Ukrainian army, became an international battalion. Soldiers from other countries who joined the Ukrainian army went through months of training before heading out on their first missions. The Ukrainian army had trained these soldiers to the highest level. The new soldiers of the Azov battalion were experiencing their first combat experience on the front lines. The soldiers proved that they were ready and capable of defending Ukrainian territory against invaders. The first operation of the International Battalion affiliated with the 12th Special Purpose Azov Battalion has been fully documented with footage. May 29, 2025. Ukrainian air forces continue to maintain their effectiveness on all battlefronts. Russian troops were spotted setting up a base in buildings in southern Ukraine. Enemy soldiers had turned this base into a control center for unmanned aerial vehicles. At the same time, they were using a nearby building as a temporary staging area. The Ukrainian Air Force had launched the operation. A MiG-29 fighter jet was selected for the mission. The fighter jet identified the targets and launched high-explosive bombs toward them. The pilot successfully struck 2 targets simultaneously using AASM hammer-guided munitions. The pilots had effectively destroyed the enemy targets. The personnel losses inflicted on the Ukrainian army by the enemy Russian army have exceeded 190,000 since the beginning of the year. The Ukrainian Defense Forces continue their struggle to defend their territory by effectively eliminating the enemy. The Russian army has not only suffered personnel losses, it has also lost numerous armored vehicles. Although the Russian army does not want to acknowledge this, the number of enemy armored vehicles on the front lines has significantly decreased. This situation is due to the Ukrainian army turning the enemy's vehicles into scrap. Russian forces, now lacking armored vehicles, began attacking the front lines using civilian-looking vehicles. Ukrainian units detected these unarmored vehicles and completely destroyed them within hours. In Ukraine's Sumy region, the Ukrainian military unit Kaladrius detected a Russian Strela-1 air defense system as a result of intensive reconnaissance operations. The unit directed an FPV kamikaze drone toward the target. The operator approached the enemy air defense system, which was hidden in a forested area, with precision. An effective attack was carried out. Following the attack, a violent explosion occurred in the enemy vehicle. After confirming that the enemy target had been completely neutralized, the units departed the area using a reconnaissance vehicle. Here is another enemy Russian soldier and armored vehicle. A Ukrainian FPV drone is about to destroy its target. An effective maneuver, and the enemy soldier and vehicle are destroyed. But enemy activity in the area was still ongoing. Enemy infantry was trying to advance on foot toward Ukrainian positions. FPV kamikaze drone operators are moving around the area like hunters. Spot the enemy and eliminate them. The fate of all enemy infantry attempting to invade Ukrainian territory remained unchanged. All they could do in each attack was try to escape. The Ukrainian army would not allow that, because these lands belonged to the Ukrainian army. Ukrainian forces carried out an effective infiltration operation on an enemy hangar filled with armored military vehicles. The operation was carried out by the 28th Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. The troops used fiber-optic-controlled drones to successfully enter the enemy hangar. Drone operators moved precisely within the hangar, targeting the weakest points of enemy vehicles and initiating the destruction operation. The operators launched attacks on all enemy soldiers inside the hangar. Among the destroyed armored vehicles was a T-72 tank. The T-72 is a main battle tank developed by the Soviet Union and widely used in many countries. It is equipped with a 125mm gun, an automatic loader, and strong armor. It was an important vehicle used both in classic land battles and in modern conflicts. At the end of the operation, smoke was rising from the enemy hangar. In other words, the enemy vehicles were reduced to ashes. Why were fiber-optic-controlled drones used in this operation? Let's take a closer look. A fiber-optic drone is a special unmanned aerial vehicle that transmits control signals not via radio waves but through a fiber-optic cable. Since there is a direct cable connection between the operator and the drone, it is resistant to electronic jamming systems. It is typically used for short-range, high-precision attacks and can be designed to enter enclosed spaces or shelters. It has been effectively used in the Ukraine war alongside FPV first-person view kamikaze drones. Reconnaissance drones are back in action. Another enemy vehicle is moving without permission in Ukrainian territory. The vehicle is an old minibus that looks civilian. As we know, they don't have enough armored vehicles left. A Ukrainian FPV kamikaze drone quickly targeted the enemy vehicle. Upon seeing the kamikaze drone, the enemy infantry panicked and chose to abandon the vehicle and flee. However, the reconnaissance drones had already tracked the fleeing soldiers. The soldiers had opted to hide among the trees in hopes of evading detection, but it was in vain. A kamikaze drone had already targeted them. The drone operator performed a precise maneuver and hit the target with pinpoint accuracy. Boom! The infantryman was neutralized. Another group of soldiers hiding inside a nearby building was detected. The FPV drone made a quick dive through the window of the damaged building. The infantryman didn't even have time to react before the drone exploded, along with the soldiers. A series of attack operations were carried out against infantrymen detected in shelters in the area. All enemy elements detected were neutralized effectively and swiftly. This operation was carried out and directed by the military group known as Vidar on behalf of the Ukrainian army.